Oh, this is the Anthony Rogers Show, and I'm Jeff T. Bowles, and someday you'll know me as the first person who figured out the entire theory of aging and pointed the way to the cure for human aging.
You are now listening to the best show in the universe, The Anthony Rogers Show. You probably wish that this was your show, but it's not. It's The Anthony Rogers Show. Tell all of your friends to listen to this show.
Imagine a cup of coffee without the jitters, an edible without the sugar, a joint without the smoke. Just an energizing high that's all natural, no fuss. Go get a My High THC stir stick from getmyhigh.com right now. It will change your life. You're going to love it. And if you're just starting out with THC or you're an experienced user, awesome either way. It's a lot better than all that terrible poisonous smoke in your lungs, and it's kind of a healthy way to kind of relax and focus and however it works for you. So go to getmyhigh.com, link in the description, and get you some stir sticks.
Welcome back to the greatest show in the entire universe. Today we have a guest that's been on this show a lot. He's been a panelist as well. So if you listen to past episodes, you probably heard him a lot. Author Jeff T. Bowles. How you doing?
Hi, nice to be here again.
Yeah, you've been on a lot of episodes. I realized that as I was introducing you. But this time we're going to talk about something you've talked about on a recent podcast with you said a bunch of doctors and stuff. This is anti-aging, basically. Technology, or I guess.
Yeah, it's a new discovery, a huge discovery that's going to change mankind. This is probably should be the most interesting podcast that you'll ever have. But it depends on your viewers if they're interested. But I was recently interviewed by Ron Klatz, MD. He's the head of a group of 30,000 anti-aging doctors around the world. They're all MDs. They meet for meetings and they help people stay young. And he had me on because we've just discovered the cure for aging, basically. A guy named Howard Katcher, a friend of mine. Well, my background is I've done a lot of research in aging for many, many years, and I've been like an outsider with a different view of how aging works. All the scientists, other scientists and doctors, they all think it's free radicals, accidentally damages your DNA and makes you sick and old, and they don't believe in programmed aging. And I went to the Northwestern Med School Library. I retired young, like in my late 20s, and just spent 10 years going through all the abstracts related to aging without knowing the theory behind it. And I put all the puzzle pieces together, and I said, wow, aging's programmed. And I wrote a paper, and everyone read it, and they howled with laughter. They were all making fun of me. You don't know how evolution works, blah, blah, blah. And a study just came out. It's a preprint. It's going probably into Nature magazine by Steve Horvath, and he just proved that aging is programmed. So all these scientists and evolutionary biologists, they've been wrong since 1880.
So what does this mean to what does it being programmed mean to like a layman or someone just listening to the show, like not understanding the scientific terminology? Like what does that mean directly?
Programmed means like mainstream scientists have always thought your body evolution works because of the selfish gene. There's a famous book out by Dawkins, and evolution's driven solely by genes wanting to make more and more copies of themselves. And so that means the most successful animals in evolution are the ones that have the most offspring. So you're spreading your genes. So they don't think anything could evolve that would reduce the spread of your genes, because that would supposedly be evolved away. So aging, they think it's just an accident of us living too long, because it doesn't make sense in their selfish gene world, because aging cuts off the number of children you can have and it reduces the spread of your genes. So they don't think evolution could not have created this like as a program to kill you for some reason. It just doesn't make sense in their world. But it turns out aging is programmed, and what that means is there's things going in your on in your body after age 50 that are actually making you old and killing you on purpose. And there's some sort of evolutionary purpose for us dying at a certain age. And that makes no sense in the mainstream science view. And they let me know about it quite a bit. One evolutionary biologist, when I published a paper in 1998 of all these of my puzzle of aging solved. Basically, it was 95% correct, and the final puzzle piece just came out recently from Steve Horvath. And what? But before we get onto that a little more, but the interesting information, the interesting result of this discovery is there's another programmed aging scientist buddy of mine. There's only 4 of us. There's like 1,000 non-programmed aging scientists. His name's Harold Katcher, and he has just done an experiment on mice where he's injected them with these Yamanaka factors, which I'll explain later. They're 4 different transcription factors, but he injected them 2 times on one day and then 2 times 2 days later, and it reduced the aging. It reversed the aging in the mice in all their tissues by 54 to 75%. Now that shot's going to be available to humans pretty soon. He's trying to get a patent on it right now. But that means we've basically figured out how to reverse aging in humans. And that's because aging is programmed. If it wasn't programmed, it would be a lot more difficult. And all right, so that should get people interested in listening to more about this, right?
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. So what is can you so you're saying that you could reverse aging? Like, how far can you reverse it?
Well, what happens is when you clone, Dolly the cloned sheep, she came from an adult cell. They took the DNA from an adult sheep and they put it into the egg of a female sheep. They took out her nucleus, which is her DNA, and they put in the adult DNA from another sheep, and then they shocked it with some electricity, and it went backwards in time. The DNA went all the way back to time 0. So you can reverse aging all the way to time 0.
What is time 0?
That's like when the sperm gets right into the ovum.
Oh, damn.
You can go all the way back, but when you do that, you lose all your cells lose the information of what kind of cell type they are.
Yeah.
So you don't want to go back that far, because it turns out if you inject these 4 Yamanaka factors into these mice or animals for more than 5 days in a row, you get past the point, it's called the point of no return, where all the cells keep getting younger and younger, and then eventually all your cells turn into like little embryos. So that wouldn't be good.
Yeah. Not at all. So
Yeah,
can you reverse like 10 years?
You would turn, you would turn into basically a pile of jelly.
That's crazy.
If
and then you could never come back?
Well, I mean, you could probably put some of those cells into an egg and grow the baby from it.
So can you go back? Like, say if I took some of this, guy go back 10 years? Like
Yeah, well, it turns out, so if then
This episode is brought to you by Prescribed Burn Sauces. Go to prescribeburnsauces.com, get some handmade roasted pepper sauces, small batch. Check out their story, check out their shop. Tell them Anthony sent you.
in 2006, a scientist named Yamanaka, they named the factors after him, he figured out what they did with Dolly the clone. You can do the same thing with adult cells. So you could take a skin cell off your arm. You don't need the egg. You can take the skin cell off your arm, squirt in these Yamanaka factors, and you can reverse the aging in a skin cell all the way back to time 0. And you could probably, if you did it right, you could probably pop it into someone or a woman and clone yourself from a skin cell. So, but you don't want to go all the way back in time like that. So what they've discovered is if you just give a transient blast of these Yamanaka factors to somebody, you could knock off 10 years, 40 years, 50 years. You don't want to go too far back. But you could, so if you give, it worked in the mice, they gave them a blast twice a day, 2 days apart. And so they had 4 total blasts in 2 days, and they just started getting younger. They ran the maze better. All their tissues rejuvenated. It's quite amazing. And he's working on that shot for humans, Harold Katcher. Now, the reason this works is because it turns out the aging system that destroys you is part of the development system that builds you from a single cell. It's not 2 different things. They're all connected by the same machinery. So you've got these little things that they make the egg divide into 2, and then 4, 8, 16, and then it starts turning certain cells into skin cells, some into nerve cells, some into hair cells, and finally you become a fully differentiated adult. And the way it does this is it shuts off genes with transcription factors. These are just basically like, so the egg, when it starts off, a fertilized egg, it has no transcription factor, so all the genes are on. So if you want to make it a unique cell, you might want to shut off 90% of the genes of certain genes would make it a skin cell. And then in another cell, you might shut off a different 80% of the genes to make it a bone cell. So there's a whole different set of genes that are turned on in each cell. And there's a lot of genes that are turned off. So you need to keep those genes turned off, or the cell will forget what kind of cell it is and start going back towards becoming an embryo. But that's what happens when we age. These transcription factors start falling off, and our cells are actually getting younger in an unhealthy way. So we're becoming like big babies that eventually die. But we're actually we're getting younger, even though it's killing us, because we're losing our transcription factor. So each cell, as you get older, it starts to forget what kind of cell it is. So the skin cell becomes like it doesn't know what it is. Everything just starts slowly turning into like the same, and it's losing differentiation. And you can see it personified in babies. They most of them all look alike pretty much. And then once you start putting the transcription factors on and they get older and they get more and more differentiated, they add transcription factors, and then they become a young adult, which you can tell them apart very easily. And then as you get older, the process goes in reverse. You start losing these transcription factors, and older people start looking the same. So it's kind of like babies and old people are very similar. And I had this weird thought that possibly the genes and muscles, or the nerves and muscles that are involved in controlling urine retention, like so you don't pee in your pants, those have to be like really difficult for evolution to create, because they have to stay on. Like the muscle has to stay contracted all the time, and then it only opens up like whenever you go to the bathroom. So that's like a really weird muscle, and possibly it needs special transcription factors to get to a certain state where it can do that. And so I'm thinking possibly those transcription factors are falling off in the older people, and that's why they all wear adult diapers, like you. What? Did I say that?
just like me. And then, I want to keep these kind of short because like these are a lot of information, and then we should do multiple episodes maybe or something. But throw out some links where people can find some of your stuff, like jefftbowles.com and stuff's one of them. But what are some links so people can kind of check out more information on this or whatever?
Well, you can read an entire blog post that's really gets into the weeds if you're interested in this. And it tells you what kind of hormones you can take right now and various antioxidants to slow or reverse the aging process. We could go on that now, or we could do that later.
We should do another episode. I want to keep these around 20 minutes so they're like digestible and stuff. Otherwise, because people are not as smart as you, Jeff. So we got to break it down in a couple episodes or something.
All right, so go to Jeff T. Bowles, Bowles. There's no spaces. jefftbowles.com and read the first blog post. I'm also starting a YouTube channel with Carol Peterson, who's a pharmacist, and she does a lot of podcasts, and it's called Human Aging with no space, and then Finally Solved with no space. So if you search YouTube with the term human aging with no space in it, about 12 rows down, you'll find a bunch of podcasts I've done that are very interesting.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on here today, and we'll have you back talk about this more. I just wanted to touch a little bit on it because, it's just a lot to take in, I think.
Yeah, it's part one, but
Yeah, we'll do a couple parts.
until the shot's ready, our next podcast can be about what hormones you can take to slow or reverse the aging process.
Okay.